Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. October comes again, my friends. You can feel it in your bones, perhaps even in your very soul. The season of the dead making their presence known. The season of whispers in the dark. The season of nightmares. I would say it's the season of Moarte too, but he's apparently franchised himself into the summer. The previous 6 years have seen us run through two horror franchises that are a bit less paid attention to by the general public, Silent Hill and The Thing. Silent Hill being more for video game fans, unless you count the awful movies, and The Thing for having the attention more of horror movie fans, unless you count the awful video games. This year I decided to do what I teased at the end of the Silent Hill reviews, A Nightmare on Elm Street, because if these annual horror reviews show anything, it's that I love to geek out on the horror franchises that I love. On the slim chance that you know nothing about A Nightmare on Elm Street, here's your primer. It's a slasher series focused around Freddy Krueger. Krueger was a child murderer, and possibly child molester. We never really got confirmation of that aside from the remake, but the less said about that the better. Who, due to a clerical error, was not convicted of his crimes. The parents of the town banded together and burned him to death. His spirit returned from the dead to attack the children of those parents in their dreams. Because apparently the afterlife is full of assholes who let the potential rapist come back to exact supernatural revenge, but not any of his victims. We'll set aside 3D dream demons for another day and focus on the good Mr. Krueger himself, who proceeded to slash his way through pretty much all the remaining kids and then some, with the original series ending with a crossover where he fought Jason Voorhees of the Friday the 13th franchise. And if I may say so, an awesome note to end on, since I really liked Freddy vs. Jason, CGI marijuana-smoking worms notwithstanding. Like with Doctor Who, the appeal here is a storytelling engine that allows for pretty much anything to happen. After all, dreams can encompass reality, unreality, pleasant things, unpleasant things. It's just a place for so much imagination to run wild, especially in the kills. Freddy himself presented something different from most slasher killers. The usual sort is the silent, masked psychopath who would go on a rampage, but Freddy was not only showing his own face, well, his burned face, but laughing and talking and joking around. He was a true sadist and had a dark, twisted sense of humor. Which horror fans tend to have anyway, since we like movies about people getting stabbed. And naturally, there have been a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street comics. So many, in fact, that I would rather not spend the next 5 to 10 years showcasing all of them. Maybe next year I'll do more, maybe I'll move on to another franchise. But for now, we're going to spotlight something from a smaller company that owned the license for a while. Innovation Publishing, like many other companies, got its start in the late 80s with the rise of the direct market, and then closed with the speculator boom, also like many other companies. They actually had quite a few titles, just as many licensed properties as original books, with the licensed stuff ranging from horror books and movies like Child's Play and Interview with the Vampire, to genre television with Dark Shadows and Quantum Leap. And of course, among those licensed titles was A Nightmare on Elm Street. The second of these was an adaptation of the sixth film, Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare.
In 3D!
Probably one of the few times the gimmick made sense in a comic, considering that film shared the gimmick. Their final book was a 3-issue miniseries called The Beginning, a sequel and prequel to Freddy's Dead, the idea being that the main character from that movie traveled to Springwood to research Freddy's life up until he got roasted, toasted, and burnt to a crisp. Only 2 issues of the 3 were published, however, due to the publisher's bankruptcy. Their first book, however, is what we're looking at for the next few weeks. Let's dig into Nightmares on Elm Street number 1 and number 2.
Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your
first issue cover gets the idea across in a simple, if goofy manner. Really, the big advantage of any work involving dreams and unreality is that it's hard to critique continuity or visual errors within them, since dreams aren't supposed to make any sense. That being said, sometimes dreams are just silly. Okay, clock tower striking 13, that's fine, although there are still only 11 other notches on that clock, so instead it looks like someone just put the wrong number there. Then there's this woman being pursued, who's half naked in her lingerie, which apparently also consists of a bedsheet dress. Seriously, what the hell? In her dreams, did she accidentally sew sheets to her underwear, or was she hoping to be as quote-unquote innovative with comfort wear as the Snuggie? And then there's the Springwood slasher himself, watching her from on high. Yeah, it's creepy and all, but the semi-realistic style kinda makes his expression a little goofy. Welcome to prime time! Also, with the way he's looking at her between his claw fingers, perhaps he's actually just playing a massive game of peekaboo. We open on a hazy London setting, particularly Whitechapel. Oh, I'm sorry, I clearly grabbed the wrong comic, and this is just a sequel to From Hell. From the newly discovered diaries of Jack the Ripper. Dear Diary, apparently the way to get a bunch of time travelers to annoy you is to murder a bunch of prostitutes. My realm spreads out before me, pale ghosts walking across the pathetic landscapes of their lives. I've put up several keep off the grass signs that have been completely ignored. Actually, it's some drivel about how he sees the perverse, twisted fantasies of the women he kills, and thus delivers those fantasies to them. Those fantasies of, being slashed, murdered, and mutilated. And this is why Jack the Ripper's Guide to Dating is not a bestseller. It might also be because Jack the Ripper was Freddy Krueger, as we see here when he turns down a prostitute. You'll get yours, bitch! Ha ha ha! Freddy Krueger, poet and philosopher. Our viewpoint character here, Sybil, sees the silhouette of Jack, or Freddy, approaching and runs off, the black and white tint changing into red and green when she spots 1428 Elm Street, Freddy's house. Or, as she recognizes it, as Nancy's house. Nancy, played by Heather Langenkamp, gets the distinction of being the most recurring protagonist of the movies, appearing in 3 and referenced in another. In her dream, Sybil is approached and she asks if the man is Jack the Ripper. Sorry, Sybil! Oh my god! Freddy Krueger is the killer! You know, even setting aside knowing what comic this is, it kind of ruins your big reveal when you already revealed it was Freddy 2 pages ago. Anywho, Sybil awakens next to her husband and tells him about how she's having nightmares about the house. In particular, that Nancy was her old college roommate. Her boyfriend thinks that the nightmares are a result of all the reading she's been doing on Jack the Ripper, but Sybil thinks that maybe she should look Nancy up. Also, I think she might be infected with the Thing from Eternal Vows. Her hair is going crazy in this panel. And so she pulls out a phone book. That's weird. She's not listed. It's almost like she may not live in this area anymore, or didn't want the number listed. That's weird. Also, no wonder you're dreaming about Jack the Ripper. You own 3 copies of the same damn book. I don't know, maybe that's supposed to be just the same book falling, but the effect is not executed well, and it's not really necessary. It's not like we cut to the book on the ground later or something. She contacts another friend of hers, Priscilla, who also knew Nancy, also to set up more potential kills for Freddy. As such, she manages to get in touch with Dr. Sims at Fairview Mental Hospital, both from the 3rd movie. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but Nancy passed away 3 years ago. There were some incidents here at the hospital. A girl committed suicide by shoving her own face deep into a TV a clear foot above her, despite having no way of reaching it, and her arms being completely limp at her side when it happened. You know, in retrospect, I'm kind of an idiot. However, she's nice enough to direct her to Dr. Neil Gordon, Nancy's love interest from the 3rd movie. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Phone tag. Actually, I may have spoken too soon about Sims not realizing what was up. When Sybil mentions in passing how she's been having weird nightmares with Nancy, she gasps and begs God to protect her. But she's also still kind of a dick since she hangs up on Sybil. We cut over to Priscilla, who has fallen asleep. Of course, she enters into a nightmare, wherein she's wearing the latest in Leatherface's luxury items, as we can see with that skin dress. Ladies and gentlemen, we give you the top clothing designer for the recently dead, Priscilla Martin! Hey, even those participating in the Skeleton War need to be fashionable on the battlefield. On the main stage, her newest collection, Priscilla's Deadwear. Priscilla's Deadwear can be worn to the hottest disco or the coolest business affair. This season of Project Runway is just weird. And of course, the host is Freddy, who asks Priscilla where Nancy is, which seems kind of odd since I recall Freddy stabbing her. But then again, Freddy has been hit on the head a lot since then. When Priscilla says she doesn't know, Freddy proceeds to torment her, first by showing her her mutilated girlfriend, and then in a pretty lame misdirect appears to wake up, only for her to get her hand destroyed by a Fredified sewing machine. Now I've gotta warn you, I'm not very good at needlepoint! Not many slasher movie villains are known for their sewing skills, but here's Freddy Krueger to show off his. So yeah, after a few more sewing puns, Priscilla is dead, and this is a perfect example of one of the problems with the franchise. See, I mentioned at the beginning about the storytelling engine of these movies. The imagination of the dream allows for new and different ways of people to be killed. I like that part. The problem is the execution. It's just not scary. Like I said a moment ago, there was a lame misdirect about Priscilla waking up. That happens all the time in the films. The difference being that they don't clearly show Freddy's striped Christmas sweater right out of the starting gate. Have her working on the sewing again, thinking it's just a bad dream, then boom, turn the page, sewing machine takes her hand. Much more frightening. But that's a minor thing compared to the fact that the deaths can be so completely over the top. Freddy becomes a superhero and slashes a guy into paper because he likes comics. That's not scary or creepy. Or how about Freddy takes a stoner and puts him into a video game? One that looks strangely like an episode of Home Movies. Again, it's not frightening, and the puns turn it into a complete farce.
Now I'm playing with power!
There are ways of taking the same concept and making them legitimately creepy. Less is more. Probably the best example of this is, again, the third movie. A guy is really into making marionettes. Freddy then takes the guy's veins and uses them as marionette strings. Same basic concept as those others, using something related to the character to kill them, but 1,000 times creepier. It didn't change the entire environment into puppets and strings, although, come to think of it, that would be pretty frightening, but you get the idea. So yeah, the sewing machine with maybe one pun would have been fine, but combine that with the friggin' fashion show and lack of tension for someone who we've only had one brief scene with, and the horror is diminished. But anyway, let's get back to the plot. Sybil manages to get in touch with Dr. Gordon and tells him about how she was friends with Nancy and how she's dreaming about Freddy, although of course she doesn't mention him by name. However, the dollhouse replica of Freddy's house suddenly falls off the shelf after Freddy starts letting off fireworks inside of it. I don't know, I don't get it either. Upon hearing the odd noises from the phone, Sybil stands up and then collapses to unconsciousness because she stood up too fast.
She gets up to faint.
I don't doubt that dizzy spells can happen like that, but it just seems like kind of a lazy way to get her to fall asleep. Also, Dr. Gordon's going to want to get that dollhouse checked out. It's infected with eyeballs. Anyway, since she's asleep, Sybil finds herself in Freddy's boiler room, where he's dragging his knives across the pipes, because you always go for the old classics. She's also wearing whatever the hell this outfit is, and she suddenly hears Nancy screaming at her to run. Good thing she did too. Freddy was just about to slash her, as well as melt on top of her from the looks of things. She's stopped by a wall of flames, but as a result gets to see Freddy's creepy little jump rope girls singing. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. He's serving you a subpoena. 3, 4, better lock your door. Although he can walk through walls, so it probably doesn't help. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. Freddy's a vampire, I guess. The girl warns her that Freddy's going after her husband, who's apparently in the middle of a very deep dream where he's running a printing press. She runs up to him, but is apparently stopped by, paper? Freddy's most diabolical nightmare yet. Paper cuts are really annoying. Also, the dude apparently doesn't notice that his boss has a bunch of burns on his face and a knife glove. Freddy sends him up to check the control valves and doesn't just stab him because Freddy really always wanted to work in newspapers or something, I don't know. The guy climbs a ladder and Freddy cuts said ladder.
You know, it was always James's dream to make front page news.
And so he falls down and is cut by blades? What? Shouldn't he have been crushed by the printing press or something? Also, the top story. Man dies in freak printing accident. In other news, unnecessary quotation marks. Freddy goes to kill Sybil, but then she teleports away, suddenly waking up to a ringing phone. Hello? Is anybody there? Answer me, damn it!
Yeah, this is Freddy. I was gonna go for the whole I'm your boyfriend now thing again, but seems kinda obvious. Sorry.
No, instead she more logically gets sucked into the phone. Of course, Nightmare on Elm Street was the Matrix the whole time! But no, issue 1 ends with Sybil teleporting out of the hand of Nancy, who tells her that Freddy's getting more powerful. He's not content to destroy lives anymore, Sybil. He wants to destroy me as well. And I'm more important than other people's lives. Me and the beautiful dream. I dreamed of being free of this franchise. It just won't end! And so we move on to issue 2, which shows how you can have realistic paintings of the actors while still doing more than just have them stand around. Take notes, Star Trek movie comics. Nancy and Freddy's heads, with Freddy's outstretched glove hand with some dude emerging from the glowing palm. Wait, so it was Freddy Krueger's hand that created the DC universe? Actually, that makes way too much sense with the New 52 and all. Nancy starts explaining to Sybil a bit about what's going on. She is dead, sort of, and she's brought her into the beautiful dream to protect her from Freddy. Before she can say any more, they're interrupted by a doorbell. Nancy warns her not to open it. However, she does so, revealing Priscilla, with a red and green undershirt, so you already know where this is going. Yeah, Sybil goes in for a hug, and it's Freddy, who apparently actually has a full-on lizard tongue at this point. And Sybil's hair once more decides to become the bride of Frankenstein. Nancy tells Krueger to let her go since she's the one he wants. And he does so.
What's the matter? No welcome home kiss for Freddy?
Ugh, it's gotta be like kissing a fish that's flopping around. Fortunately, Nancy has the most sacred of weapons to use against Freddy, a garden hose. Freddy Krueger is like that dog that poops in your yard. Just gotta scare him off with some water. Freddy mocks this, but I guess it's holy water or something, since it disintegrates him. However, he then summons up a tree that grabs Sybil and pulls her up. That's not too frightening. The sun-kissed fun fruit trees made us afraid of them way before Freddy. Nancy decides to leave the safety of her house to go help her. And apparently she's got the magic touch, since just poking the damn tree gets it to expel Sybil. Oh no! Oh no! I'm falling 3 feet! Freddy reforms with admittedly a very cool skeletal face. Awesome.
Well, look what dropped out of the tree. Looks ripe, but is it juicy?
Freddy, it's a pine cone. Sybil is finally woken up by Dr. Gordon, explaining that he rushed over after the abrupt end of the phone call. Yeah, she gave him his address. Always a smart move when talking to complete strangers. And yeah, he also broke the door's lock. The two compare notes about Freddy and what Sybil saw in the dream. I lost Nancy to him 3 years ago, along with a bunch of kids in my care. Also, John Saxon died, which was also a bit of a bummer. I thought the bastard was finished then, but I've seen signs of him since. I guess I just ignored them because I didn't want to believe. I mean, he came back to life by a dog in a dream pissing on where he was buried? How the hell does that even work? Realizing that Freddy is after Nancy, Dr. Gordon decides to try to hypnotize the both of them to go back in and try to help her. They're successful, and it seems Nancy is back inside of her protected house or whatever. Time for more exposition. The more I learn, the more it seems as if this place has all been planned, plotted in some way. But only if the box office results from the previous entry were decent. The exposition fest continues with her talking about her life between the first and third movies, and her theory about what actually happened to her. Kristen, the girl from part 3 who could bring others into her dream, apparently wasn't kidding when she told the dying Nancy she'd dream her into a beautiful dream. It somehow saved her life and allowed her soul to stay in this realm. It appears that whatever power Krueger wields over the dream world has to be balanced. Dreams must have their ambassador, even as nightmares have an agent in Freddy. Okay, now I want to see Freddy versus Sandman. Someone call Neil Gaiman! You're saying that you've become some kind of cosmic good dream fairy, and that Freddy's the boogeyman? In a manner of speaking, yes. Really, I'm more of a cosmic good dream mall security guard. Dr. Gordon is confused why Freddy is using Sybil to draw her out instead of him. She reveals she's been protecting him, hiding his dreams from Freddy. Surely you've seen me in your dreams.
Yeah, but I just figured that you in the nurse's outfit was a normal dream for me. Also, that face.
Sybil, pissed about the death of her friend, wants to go after Freddy. No, Sybil. Hatred and anger won't defeat him. He feeds on those emotions. So what are you saying? That we should defeat him with love? In a way, yes.
Taste the rainbow, motherfucker!
Actually, it's more that it's not really possible to ever really be rid of Freddy. There's always going to be something in their dreams to scare them and feed on people's darkness, and it's always existed. All they can do is hope to rob him of enough power that it takes a long time for him to return.
So our plan is, let's make it someone else's problem in the future?
Sounds an awful lot like Hopeless to me. I don't understand all the whys of life and death any more than you do.
Really? Because you seem to be speaking with an awful lot of authority about this.
But we can stop Freddy for now. And maybe... Okay, you said you wanted to stop him, so come on. Let's go kick some Kruger butt!
It's not my problem. I sleep now.
So they leave the house and enter into someone's nightmare. What appears to be Fairview Hospital again. And after passing by a dude with bleeding eyes and a straitjacket and... wires? I don't know. They proceed down the hallways until they come across Dr. Sims, indicating it's her nightmare. Why, Neil Gordon and Nancy Thompson, how nice to see you again. You know, you told me to listen to the children, and I did. I'm fascinated by this creature they all speak of, named SpongeBob. And we see all the people around her have had their eyes plucked out. I listened to them scream in the quiet rooms, but I helped them to get their uninterrupted REM sleep. They've been sleeping for quite a while.
I trust you implicitly, Doctor. Nothing bad has happened under your care.
And then, of course, Freddy is there too, and he slices off her head and plays with her brains a bit. Come on, turn your back on him. Close your eyes and empty your minds. I'm gonna get us out of here.
Where are you going, piggies? That's what I'd like to know. Weren't you people going after him?
But yeah, by closing their eyes and running off down a hallway, they teleport or something into a field.
We got away from him.
For now.
So Mission Frady Cat comes to a close.
Wherever they are, they spot a little blonde girl who asks Sybil, "What are you doing here, Mother?" Why do you call her Mother? Because she's going to be my mother. She's really taking her sweet-ass time with it, too. I'm not getting any younger here, Mom. Yeah, this is Sybil's unborn child. According to the fifth movie, life begins at conception, because apparently unborn children also possess dreams. And they hang out in a big field, as the girl confirms to Nancy when she comments that she was here a long time ago. Freddy shows up, which pisses off unborn baby. So much so that she summons up a whole bunch more that drag Freddy down and rip him apart, and then, he explodes? Also, John Woo movie. Kind of undermines your villain when he's defeated by people who haven't even been born yet. Sybil and Dr. Gordon wake up, Sybil realizing that she's suffering from morning sickness, or, you know, all the crap that you just went through. However, she seems to fall back asleep again and is confronted by a door with a large wolf knocker on it. Ah, good. Jacob Marley can help us fight Freddy. We beat you! Get out of my mind, Freddy! And so our comic ends revealing that it's not Freddy. Freddy, I'm afraid you're mistaken. Call me Jack.
Oh my god! Jack the Ripper's the killer!
Wait. Anyway, these comics are... As I explained, it's not really scary so far. There's potential for scares, especially with the disturbing imagery, which is even more needed for a comic book, but it doesn't use its other necessary element for horror. Pacing. It doesn't actually let you have difficulty determining what is or is not a dream. It doesn't build up the kills, just lets Freddy do his one-liners and put ridiculous scenarios on everything. But it's not bad. Compared to other horror comics I've reviewed, at least all the characters are likable. I certainly didn't want to see Phyllis or her girlfriend killed, and Sybil seems likable enough, even though her husband was kind of a moron in his sleep. It's also trying to throw a lot at us in these first two issues, particularly world building about how dreams are supposed to work, which kind of takes away some of the terror of the whole situation. It also doesn't help that there's a safe haven in the dreams from Freddy. Then again, we also have this new Ripper twist, so we'll see where that goes. The artwork is... In some places, it's great for the surreal atmosphere of the dreams. Others, the attempts at realism just end up looking unintentionally distorted. I can't help but feel it would have been better if someone else was doing the real-world sequences, and then the artist was doing the dream stuff. Still, next time we'll see where this goes, and maybe it'll pick up. I'm done with the review now, you can come in. I said it's okay to come in. Huh. Weird. Nope. Won't be opening that up again anytime soon. Nimue, what the hell is going on? Nimue?
Human.
Mayday! Mayday! Can anyone hear me? I could really use some help right about now.
Sleepwalk through eternity.
Thank you, that was quite helpful. You know, maybe I'll just stay in here for a little while and work on my next review. Wasn't this different behind me?
Got a splitting headache? Feel like you want to sit down and eat something? Or maybe you just want to spend some quality time with the kids? Then maybe you should be watching Long Box of the Damned every day in October at 7 a.m. Central Time on AtopTheFourthWall.com.